I recently made a video talking about XLM, and we were talking about crucial levels to hold on the chart, but we were also talking about stablecoins, mass adoption, things like that. In this video, I want to talk about how DeFi on XLM is exploding right now and why this is just the beginning, but also how Stellar is preparing for the next big wave around this network. Let's start off with the price chart. Let's talk about the 30-cent zone because we were talking about 30 cents being the level in which XLM does have to hold in order to have that bullish run up to $1 plus potentially. And right now, when it comes to this market, we're still kind of just chopping. We're going through this phase of the market where everyone is still on edge because of the trade war and the trade discussions between, the US and China. And until we start to see those cool off, we probably won't witness any big moves on these charts. When it comes to XLM, the 30-cent zone, I would argue it's like 30.5 cents mainly. The main thing that we're looking at here is, we're at 32.5 cents roughly. 30 cents is very close right now to being targeted, and I question if this is going to hold or not, because again, the biggest factor here is having Bitcoin bounce back in a big way. And the problem with Bitcoin is, well, we're still tied back to all of the noise between the US and China. And it's questionable on when that is going to blow over. It could be a week from now. It could be 2 weeks from now. It could be even a month from now. But we will keep a close eye on the chart. I'll keep you guys posted if we do see anything significant. But I would love to see a big push above 35 cents and get a daily candle close above these highs. Because number one, we would flip it into a higher high on the daily view. We would also flip a lot of the support from September into, this is acting as resistance right now, but we would essentially flip this into support again. So that would be a very good start. And then after that, we would start to actually target some of these prior highs around like 41 cents. So again, right now, XLM, no major change from yesterday in terms of price action. We probably won't see that major change for a bit of time. However, I want to talk about something very interesting because both the XRP ecosystem and now the XLM ecosystem are focused on one thing: privacy. We have over here from Ripple X Dev. Without privacy, financial institutions cannot safely use public ledgers without accountability. Regulators cannot sign off. With programmable privacy, we can have both. And you guys probably remember, depending on if you guys watch the other videos on this channel or not, you guys probably remember me talking about this in a video recently because, again, privacy is definitely a crucial thing. And we now have the XRP ecosystem really kind of building out core pieces to target institutional DeFi and institutional adoption of specific things. But Stellar is also focused on this now. We just witnessed a video clip from Tomer Weller, and we have here Stellar.org is continuing to evolve in a way that has stayed true to its cross-border payments roots. Now, the chain is making privacy a renewed focus. Stellar is going to be the best place to experiment with cutting-edge cryptography. Check this out.
Stellar is going to be, by the end of the year, like the best place to experiment on in terms of like cutting edge cryptography. And we see privacy being a major hurdle in that adoption. We're tackling this. We think we have like great ideas and we're working with like great partners in the ecosystem to make it happen. But anyone who tells you they have privacy completely figured out are like full shit.
So yeah, listen, when we think about what's happening here, also, by the way, I really do hope that YouTube doesn't mute that segment simply for the background music. But the main thing that we are looking at here is privacy and the core pieces to target institutional grade adoption, enterprise grade adoption, and privacy is definitely up there. And this builds upon that announcement on the 10th from Stellar, which did say our privacy strategy is guided by the principle that blockchains should be open and transparent by default, while privacy should be configurable and compliance ready from the start. Now, when it comes to Stellar, we already know that Stellar was first adopted by Franklin Templeton for a major tokenization initiative. I think that Stellar was one of the first major networks to see that type of adoption. And the reason for that is because Stellar had everything in place around compliance that Franklin Templeton needed in order to adopt it and utilize it for tokenization. Now, with privacy, this could lead into some significant moves being made around Stellar for enterprise adoption. And we'll talk about that here in a second. But let's actually go into this announcement. This got posted back in September, actually, the middle of September. And we have in traditional finance, privacy is a given. Centralized ownership of ledgers keep data private, but come at a cost of openness and neutrality. But on a public blockchain like Stellar, openness is an essential feature of the infrastructure. It's what makes Stellar secure, accessible, and trusted by leading enterprises and institutions. The next phase of blockchain adoption depends on combining the benefits of openness with the privacy people expect from their everyday financial services. That hasn't happened yet, and we believe Stellar will be the proving ground of where it does. It's true, new public chains are exploring confidentiality features, banks are experimenting with permission networks, and tech giants are launching private chains. But development activity alone doesn't equal adoption. Real-world adoption requires balancing the needs of consumers and enterprises with compliance. Stellar already processes billions of dollars in payments quarterly. Organizations depend on its openness, but can't afford to expose every cash flow or counterparty relationship to the world. That's why Stellar is uniquely positioned to show that privacy on a public chain can work at scale, and why we've built a strategy to get there. Now, of course, when we think about this strategy, this is the strategy at scale. Supporting research and innovation, investing in core privacy infrastructure. This is around ZK infrastructure, which is also exactly what Ripple is doing as well. If we actually open this link real quick, just to kind of show you guys exactly how they're doing this, it is with ZKPs, as you guys can see down here. So this is kind of a very similar strategy, but then also they did partner up with a few names like Nethermind, and also, this is to add risk zero ZKVM verifier to Sorbonne, enabling users to verify ZKVM proven programs. So again, this is definitely a big update. And then also building open source solutions. And they already joined a major association, which was Confidential Token Association, alongside founding members Open Zeppelin, Zama, and Inco. And then through this, they're going to develop a framework to add confidentiality to widely used token standards such as ERC20 and prototype the first Stellar native confidential tokens. So again, it seems as though they are locked in on this. And the question here is why? Well, for multiple reasons. Number one, institutional grade adoption. Number two, enterprise grade adoption. We have over here, and this was on October 3rd, enterprises won't adopt public blockchains without privacy, period. And this is this was regarding Stellar's next protocol upgrade that will bring production-ready privacy solutions. And this is all based around ZKPs. I'm very excited about this because, again, we know Stellar was one of the first major key players to have a major institutional player like Franklin Templeton, for example, to tap in and tokenize on Stellar. Now, it seems as though they are preparing for the next wave, which is enterprise-grade adoption. I'm very excited about this, and I do think that this is where we start to really see real value hitting these networks. Because, again, once you start to bring enterprises on chain, they will bring customers with them. And a lot of these enterprises, well, they're working with millions to tens of millions, even hundreds of millions of customers, which could easily be tapped in to public blockchains like Stellar. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is DeFi. We already know that DeFi is a massive market. Let me just grab it real quick off of Chainlink, because we do know, of course, Chainlink is a DeFi project. When we are looking at the DeFi market, it has been down lately. However, this is one of the largest market. This is like one of the biggest categories, I should say, within this market. But the DeFi market itself has been growing tremendously over the years. When we see market dips and we see the market kind of fluctuate, yes, DeFi does follow it closely. However, DeFi itself and TVL tied to it are like some of the biggest things that I focus on around crypto. When it comes to TVL on Stellar, right now we are down about 2.7% or so, but we are hovering around $143 million. For anyone out there that thinks that this value is low compared to some of these other networks out there, I actually think that Stellar is doing very well for themselves. Just for reference, if we look at DeFi TVL itself, $155+ billion. Looking at the chains, so let me actually go back real quick and just look at the chains. So when we are looking at all of the networks in this space, how does Stellar really kind of equate to some of these other players? Well, right now, currently in this space, Stellar is number 42. that might seem low. However, compared to other networks like, for example, Hedera, XRP, Algorand, all of these other big names, Stellar is doing very, very well. And remember, most of the growth on Stellar has happened this year. In the beginning of 2025, we were at $45 million roughly. We have been skyrocketing since the beginning of the year. So I don't think that this is where we are going to slow down. In fact, I think that this is where we start to really scale. If Stellar can continue that same growth rate, I can easily see Stellar moving up into potentially like the top 20 at over $360 plus million. And also, by the way, stablecoins on Stellar have been growing tremendously as well. And looking at some of the TVL where it's coming from, we could see exactly where it's coming from. DEXs, RWAs, even Blend. I mean, Blend is killing it as well. This is all based around lending, which makes a lot of sense considering the fact that if we are looking at DeFi itself, I believe the categories here, yeah. So if we're looking at categories compared to chains, the top one is lending. So it makes sense on Blend being the number one here with over 43 million plus dollars in TVL. But also, I mean, listen, Stellar has 15 protocols tied to it. Still very early in its infancy, I would argue. So when it comes to that, I really do think that DeFi on Stellar is going to boom in a big way, even more. And what's crazy about this is we know back in May, Stellar did say that they were aiming to become a top 10 DeFi chain. Now, if we're thinking about that, where would that put Stellar? Well, we're going back to that list real quick. Let's go to chains. A top 10 player would be over $2+ billion. Now, looking at this, we do have a few updates regarding exactly what they're looking at. So here we have Stellar's primary objective is to become a top 10 chain by TVL. The network's DeFi TVL is currently rather small at roughly 48 million. It's funny because, again, today it's well over 140 plus million, but aims to reach the $1.5 billion mark, which would make it the 9th largest blockchain by TVL in all of DeFi. Obviously, since this post, things have grown tremendously. But again, if we're thinking about this, you know, do they have a perfect moment for them in front of them to really target that top 10 position? 100%, right? Because if we're looking at what they're trying to do to get into that top 10, we have the chain is aiming for a $3 billion RWA target by onboarding more institutional asset issuers and expanding its retail user engagement with the sector. The expansion of the chain's RWA market will offer not only DeFi to the underserved and underbanked communities, but also to institutions and enterprises looking to gain operational capital efficiencies. Well, all right, well, we now know that they're adding privacy to the chain with this next upgrade, which is going to welcome in enterprise players. We already know that Stellar's killing it in terms of tokenization. And also recently, we know that Stellar just announced 2 major deals at Meridian with number one, Red Swan, which was $100 million worth of tokenized real estate. And then also Centrifuge with $20 million into these 2 funds. And then also we know that Ondo USDY just went live on Stellar. So if we're thinking about all of these major announcements, institutional grade adoption around Stellar is definitely picking up. Major announcements are breaking behind RWA expansion on Stellar. And now with privacy hitting the chain, and we know that they are looking at enterprises, enterprise grade adoption could be the next big wave. This could definitely take Stellar's DeFi market to a completely new level. If we're looking at that top 10, we have a lot of growth to go. I mean, we have to add over $2+ billion in TVL. That's definitely a big focus of theirs still, and I do see it happening. I think that that's 100% possible, but it's not going to happen in the next, couple months. It's going to happen over time. But we are witnessing tremendous growth around the Stellar ecosystem, and it's crazy because, again, most of the price action around XLM, happened back in 2024. There really hasn't been a lot of growth happening around XLM since going back to November of 2024. So I really do think that most people are overlooking some of these key facts around Stellar. And this is also why I do think that a lot of people will be surprised by what XLM can accomplish in this market. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, so notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.